We did it. We made it from 2022 to 2023. That's not the only milestone that the Range Minded podcast has hit. This is episode 200, officially episode 200. I know in the past we did some re-releases and that, so it looks like we have 200 episodes on the numbers on any of your streaming services, but this is officially episode 200, and we couldn't be more excited. In this episode, we talk to Nick. That's right, we haven't seen Nick forever, but we bring him on. We talk about some of our goals and expectations for this upcoming year. So I hope you enjoy this episode of the Range Minded podcast. Like it, share it, give us some awesome reviews. We need to get our voice out there a little bit more. In fact, that's one of our goals for this year. Anyways, I hope you enjoy this episode 200 of the Range Minded podcast. It is 2023, and you're listening to the Range Minded podcast. What up, gang? It's Steve, and I have a special guest with me who isn't really a guest, but maybe I should treat him like a guest, even though he's not. It's Nick Hoffer. Nick, what is up, man?
Guys, it's great to be back. I'm excited to be back on the show. I felt like Steve was leaving me behind, but
definitely not the case.
All jokes aside, I was super busy last year. You guys probably heard me on 4 or 5 other podcasts, traveled around the country a little bit, and I've been working really hard to bring out the Omni Carry holster. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I'm also going to find out what Steve's plans are for the Range Minded podcast this year. So I want to get started. We're going to make this a fast-paced episode.
Yes, we are.
We're going to hear from Steve in the end about what his plans are. And I'm going to tell you what I've been up to while I haven't been on the show.
Yeah. So let's just jump right into it. I really wanted to talk about in this show kind of like some New Year's goals. I hate the term resolution. I think it's like an easy out. It doesn't sound like there's enough commitment there. I'd rather use the term goals, right? So I want to know what Nick Hoffer's goals are, what Hoftech's goals are, and then we're kind of just go from there. So let's start with Hoftech. First of all, what do you got planned for this year? You talk about Omni Carry and maybe some other stuff. What do you got planned for this year?
Well, Nick Hoffer's goals at this point. This year is really about brand awareness for Hoftech and moving the business forward. So let me just kind of start with what I've been up to the last 6 months that I haven't been doing episodes of the show. I've been in some of your lives, but I haven't been on any Range Minded episodes. Right. So I'm excited to be back, but I just kind of want to fill everyone in on why I haven't been around. So you heard me mention Omni Carry. That's something that I don't think we've talked about unless you talked about it.
I think we've talked very, very little about it.
So Omni Carry is my new multi-fit hybrid holster brand, similar to some of the stuff that we've talked about on the show before, but this is the new improved 3.0 version. I'm excited because the last 4 months, I've really had my head down. I've done some podcasts, but I've also really been working on this partnership deal with Omni Carry. So something that I'm excited to announce that not a lot of people know about yet, but they will in 2 weeks after we go to SHOT Show. But I'll break it here to you guys first. Hoftech Industries has entered into a partnership with Adaptive Tactical in Nampa.
Awesome.
So Adaptive Tactical is going to be the sole distributor for all future retail products, starting that with the Omni Carry line.
And if people don't really understand what you mean by a holster that can hold everything, like how many guns do you figure the Omni Carry can actually handle?
So I have a growing list that has 275 guns.
So 275?
275, and I've made some changes since I did that list. So I'm guessing that we're over 300 at this point. But building that list is a lot of comprehensive work. And so I stop it at like I always claim 200, but I know we're over 300 by now.
And that's amazing. And I don't know if people really understand, for a holster to be able to fit that many guns, that's pretty damn amazing in reality. I mean, it's not just like your gun bucket from a big box store. This is an actual custom feel holster.
Yeah. So what I tell people is the OmniCarry holster is a two-sided plastic holster. It's got a front Kydex shell, and the back is a flexible, high-density plastic. And when you holster your gun, you're going to get that same click like you would get from a standard fitted holster, right? The way
Right.
that I accomplished fitting all of those guns was, one, the flexible plastic backer, which allows flex for whatever gun shape, as well as we created a retention plate system that actually closes and opens the trigger guard opening to adjust from all the way from, say, a 45 ACP down to a 380. And if those of you that know, that's a big adjustment in width of firearm, and that's done by manually adjusting the thickness of the holster through the retention plate system.
That's crazy. That's super cool. And
it's not crazy.
I've seen
it's
some
science.
of the stuff that, like the molds that or whatever that you had for the first generation, and seeing all the different parts of the mold that actually had to be there to accommodate all those guns. And I can only imagine how much time and blood, sweat, and tears was invested in this design.
So what's really cool is the previous designs that I did for other people and that I partnered with other people on, I completely went back to the drawing board and redesigned the entire shell. So this one it's got the same feel as far as when you look at it, but the design is different. We made totally new molds. We went right-handed, left-handed, inside the waistband, outside the waistband. And then I also did a dedicated version because 1911s are so different. We did one that was 1911 and 2011 compatible. And wow. That's all right out of the gate will be available.
That's super cool. And with your distributors, whatever you want to call it, like how's that been received, at least with the last couple of generations?
So I don't know about the last couple generations, but you're talking about like retailers?
Right.
So I know from what we did as far as production, in the last 5 years, we did about 75,000 holsters.
Wow.
And that was on revs 1 and 2. And this one actually fits better. It's better designed. The attachment hardware is better. The backer is totally different with the flexible plastic. It's not just your standard nylon backer anymore. And I believe that this one is going to be better received than the previous generations. And that was 75,000 in 5 years. I think we can do 30,000 in the first year.
That's nuts, dude. Does that make you nervous? Does that make you excited? Or is that just like, does it blow your mind?
So it's funny. I was having a meeting today actually, and we were talking about heading to SHOT Show and getting a spec sheet and stuff ready to go. And I was like, I'm excited and nervous at the same time. So I'm excited to finally bring it to the larger market. I've been selling them on social media for the last few months, and I really dialed in the design using essentially your guys' feedback. All of the customers and all my followers on social media through Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, I used the feedback from you guys. That's why the standard design now comes with 2 metal clips, because that's what you guys asked for. And the more I used it, the more I was like, yep, this is the way it needs to be. The retention plate, I really dialed that in through trial and error with customers and feedback from our TikTok and Instagram page. And it's really gotten dialed in until this point right now, where we're about to go to the largest trade show in the world. We're going to introduce it to our rep group. With Adaptive, I've signed on with a rep group. So we're going to have 13 reps and a national sales director that's going to be pushing this into every store that they work in.
That's huge, man.
That would include every big box store across the country. So if we can do this right, we will be in all of the stores that you guys shop in.
That's huge. That's amazing, dude. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Which is something that was not accomplished in the last couple attempts of doing this. So that means that the design is better and the focus and execution is definitely better this time around.
So after years of hard work, you're an overnight success.
Yeah. 12 years of working on this. And in 3 months, I've become, and I'm not even a success yet. We'll see. We haven't sold anything in retail yet. So there's one store that carries the Omni Carry, and that is Idaho Guns in Nampa, Idaho.
Wow. Dude, that's awesome. I'm excited.
So it will be cool to see January 2024 how many dealer locations we have, because right now, January 2023, we have one.
Yeah, I imagine it'll change quick if you got hooked up with some of these, reps and stuff. That should make a huge difference.
So I've worked with rep groups in the past with our other attempts to go into retail, and I'll say this: the rep group that we chose and that we are using now is highly experienced in holster sales.
Oh, good.
I would tell you some of the brands that they used to work for, but I don't want to get anyone. I don't want to say anything I'm not supposed to, but
sure.
Some of the largest brands in the world in holsters, at least 2 of them.
That's awesome. I'm excited. You mentioned SHOT Show, and everybody loves to go to SHOT Show. Well, at least everybody asks, right? So like every time I've been to SHOT Show, and then like my friends that are outside the industry, they always want to go, and I'm like, well, you can't go. And then I also get the question of, hey, can you buy me something, bring it back? Nope.
Well, now you can.
They'll let you do sales?
SHOT Show now.
What?
Yeah, the Caesar shops that actually. So I don't think I talked about this with you. So I was actually going to have a booth at SHOT Show this year.
Dude.
It didn't work out. The booth that we were going to get was shared with another company, and it didn't work out. But in the expansion, in the new Caesar shops, like whatever part they just built that they used last year, they're allowing retail sales in that portion of the show.
Oh my gosh, man, that's a big deal. If you guys are listening, you've been to SHOT Show before, that's a big deal, because man, that's going to make some serious cash for some of these guys. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that might make it a little more appealing for some brands like us to go and have a booth at SHOT Show. I don't know. That was the only reason I considered it. It's still expensive.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I would have to sell thousands of holsters to make it worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then SHOT's just coming up, man. That's what, the 17th of January?
So 17th through the 20th.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah, so I leave next Sunday.
That's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, I was trying to get Steve to go, but apparently free tickets and a free place to stay is not enough to entice him to go to Vegas for 5 days.
It's slowly working though. It's probably too late, but it's slowly working.
And here's the thing. Fly your wife in on Thursday, or fly her in on Friday. I'm going home on Friday. You guys can have the hotel all weekend. Make it a vacation.
Oh, it is her birthday.
Oh, see, there you go.
Anyway, let's see. Where were we? That was some of your goals. That was goals for HoffTech, and you said your goals are the same.
So I will say this: my goal for this year is by the end of this year that we're producing 3,000 Omni carries a month.
Oh,
that's my goal.
By yourself?
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm not going to be able to do that by myself.
I actually believe that you can do it. I have faith in you, my friend.
It has to be. It has to be done. That's part of the deal I made with Adaptive, is that we would get to 3,400 holsters a month within 18 months.
Oh, so I mean, it's not a believe you can do it. It's you have to do it now.
It's going to happen. That's what we're going to do. That's what we've set out to do, and that's what I'm doing. So as most of you guys know, I've been doing Hoftac on my own primarily. Well, the goal for this next year is to build a team around me, which I've already started. I've already brought on James. We've brought on Adaptive. We've brought on the sales reps. Now I'm bringing on a videographer probably the beginning of March. Like I brought on Austin to run Patriot trays. Like we're moving. I'm moving forward with a team. Doing this on my own is no longer an option.
Nice. Hell yeah, dude.
So we talked about OmniCarry. We talked about my goals for OmniCarry. Now, what I want to know, Steve, is what is your New Year's resolution for the Range Minded podcast?
So we talked a little bit off air before we started recording about what I want to see and what I want to happen. And I've made this goal every year, but I got to be more specific. I think my previous goals have just been too broad and unattainable, right? That's a lot of times what happens with goals. We make them too big and they just don't work. Yeah. So I want to start with January and February. I want a simple goal of just adding 100 followers to the podcast. That's pretty simple. Just 100 people. That means everybody listening, if you just invited one friend, we could double that because I know we have more than 100 listeners. If one of you, if each of you shared this with one other person, that would double our following, and we would achieve that goal right off the bat. So that's the first thing. So
okay, so once you hit 100 new listeners,
yep.
Then what do you want? 500?
After that, yeah, I want to hit 500. I want to be able to have 1,000 listeners by the end of the year.
Okay. So goal number 1, 1,000 listeners by the end of the year, broken up into 100 listener increments through the year.
Correct.
Okay.
Which I feel is very attainable.
I think you can do that.
So, and then once we get to that point, because we've talked about merchandise, we talked about stickers and stuff like that before, but all that stuff is just a pipe dream unless we have people to get it to, right? So once we hit those goals, then I'm going to start putting my money where my mouth is. I'm going to have apparel. I'm going to have that stuff done, but I cannot do it financially because I just can't do it without listeners there to do it. Because the more listeners we get, the more attention we get, and the more people we're going to have. They're going to be, advertisers and sponsors. So that's got to happen.
So here's something I'm going to do for you. So this is what I want. I want to narrow this down and make this something that's trackable. Okay. So everybody who listens to the podcast, I'm sure you listen to other podcasts. The go-to for metrics is iTunes. So this is what I need everybody to do to help Steve and help myself reach this goal of 100 subscribers. I need you to go to iTunes, subscribe to the podcast, and leave a 5-star review. When we hit 100 subscribers or 100 reviews, I will Hoftac will finance doing a run of shirts for the listeners.
That's pretty rad. That's pretty damn rad.
So that will be the first step is getting 100 subscribers. So for those whatever we're at now, I'll go look as soon as we're done. Whatever we're at now, 100 subscribers from today's date. So if you're not subscribed to the show and you just listen to the show, go subscribe, get us to 100, and then we'll drop our first shirt for the Range Minded podcast.
That's pretty damn awesome.
So there's that. What else do you have in mind for the podcast? So
in order to get good content, another thing we talked about off the air before is we have to have experiences. So before I even talked to you, I was looking at classes. I absolutely want to hit a class outside the state of Idaho this year. I will do it this year. Last year I went to Blade Camp, which was in Colorado.
I didn't do as much. I didn't realize how in depth that 4 days was going to be. I didn't have time to record any content because it was nonstop. So I'll be way better prepared now going to a big class, a big boy class, to where I'll take you guys along with us. And you can kind of, obviously we can't record during any kind of a shooting class or anything. That just won't happen. But you'll be able to experience it with us in some way. So there's goal number 2.
Okay.
Goal number 3. Oh, or do you want to talk about that for a minute?
Nope, go ahead.
Goal number 3. This is something I think I've shared with you before. But we are going to do it this year as well. It's not going to happen until probably later on in the year, probably late summer. Is I want to go on a range tour in the state of Idaho.
Oh, that's a good one. There's some good ranges, and there's some new ones coming up.
Absolutely. So by the end of the year-ish, or the end of summer, it'll still be warm enough, but that'll give us a chance to take a few days and hit some of these towns, these cities, because there's a brand new range that just opened about 15 minutes away from me in Rexburg. There's one in Idaho Falls. There's Double Tap. There's a ton of them.
You know who just is I don't know if it's open to the public, but I know they're building a range in Buell. Tier 1 Concealment is building a range here in Idaho.
Are you serious?
Yeah, he bought 50 acres in Buell.
Might have to get a hold of him. But I think that would be absolutely awesome. It gives our listeners a chance to see that Idaho is one of the most gun-friendly states in the country, if not the most gun-friendly. We don't really get that identification, but there's so much two-way stuff going on in the state of Idaho that it's crazy.
So I have one of my own goals for the show, and something that I'm going to take on it and try and get done. So nice. For those of you guys listening, those of you who are on YouTube, who watch YouTube channels, you may have recognized that Grand Thumb just moved to Emmett, Idaho.
Is that I knew he was somewhere cold, and I could not figure out where he was at.
So he had, I think he has like 40 acres outside of Emmett, and I just saw him the other day over at the barber shop right behind the shop.
Oh boy.
So my goal is to get him on the Range Minded podcast.
I'm 100% behind that goal, and I'll do what I can to help you.
So I'm not going to ask Steve to do it because I tried really hard to get him to get Ammon Bundy on the podcast, and for some reason Steve just didn't want to have him on the podcast. It was not going to do well for our ratings, and
that's categorically false. I'll have you know.
Oh, is that fake news?
Fake news. I did reach out to. I couldn't get a hold of him personally, but his press person, and I just kind of got stonewalled. I was kind of frustrated.
Well, that's why he didn't win, because he didn't come on the Range Minded podcast.
Well,
every politician that has come on the Range Minded podcast has won re-election.
That's true. And there's even one person on the podcast that's thought about running.
Yeah, I know. I keep trying to get him to run for governor.
So believe it or not, I can't run for governor. I don't want to be governor. But I did actually reach out to the same person that reached out to me last year and asked her what I needed to do. And she's like, well, you got to do this and this and this. So it's not out of the realm of possibility right now.
So Steve is running for Secretary of State?
No. Chief dog catcher.
What's the lawyer one?
Attorney General.
Jamie Dutton Sr.
I can't discuss my feelings with the Attorney General's office right now. It'd be bad.
So if you want to make up for not getting Ammon on the podcast last year, maybe you could get him on here and we could talk about what it was like to run for governor and what it was like to win 16% of the vote. That was pretty big, in my opinion.
Yeah, for a guy that was continuously thrown under the bus the whole election cycle.
So I haven't seen too much from him post-election. So I would like to get him on the podcast and talk about that and see if he plans on running again.
Yeah, I'll reach out to him again. I'll see if I can get past the press secretary or whatever she is, or whoever it was, and actually get him on the show. I think he would do it. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't. I mean, we're pretty cool.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that he went on Timcast.
Yeah, he'll come on. We'll get him on.
So, all right. So that's the two people I want to see come on the show this year. I have a list of people that I want to get on, but so one thing I talked to you about off the air was kind of the plan for moving forward with a show schedule, and I've committed to 100% doing one podcast a month as the co-host.
Right.
So you guys will definitely hear from me at least once a month if you're only listening to the Range Minded podcast.
And that'll probably be the only ones they listen to is when you're here.
So I talked to Steve and I told him that I would like to see 3 times a month him doing a solo show or maybe having a guest. I don't know. But talking about current events and things going on within the firearms industry and correlated with the firearms industry to keep everybody kind of informed. You guys know Steve is really good about paying attention to laws that are coming up, things that are happening in the news. I don't pay a whole lot of attention to that stuff, but Steve seems to have that really under wraps and knows how to talk about it much better than I do. And I think you guys would enjoy hearing more of that from him.
Well, I'll try, and I'm going to make a commitment too. Like, I think I talked about it live a few minutes ago before we got on. I did a short live real quick. I've been under the weather. Like, I've noticed a major, just like no sleep, no energy, a major problem, right? Anyway, I have visited with the doctors, nothing serious, but there were some imbalances, chemical imbalances, not crazy ones, that I'm getting under control. Are you going through
a transition, Steve?
Well, my testosterone levels were extremely low. And the doc's like, yeah, that's probably some of the problem.
You are kind of old. That's not something I would unusual.
I am old. Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, none of us would have known that from looking at your hair.
The hair that's missing?
Yeah.
So I'm getting that under control. So I'm going to be more excited. I will be able to produce more content. I just need to be, refocused, which is, what everybody does at the beginning of the year, right? So, and maybe some of the listeners didn't know, we did start a YouTube channel, and I have been trying to do more stuff on the YouTubes, which is a whole nother beast, man. Content creators are busy people. I've realized they must not have normal jobs.
No, they're content creators.
Bless their hearts.
It is a lot of work. That's why I said I'm bringing on a videographer, because it is so much. Like, you guys see my videos on TikTok and Instagram. Like, everybody has been asking me when we're going to get on YouTube, and I'm like, I don't have time for long form content. Yeah, I barely have time to edit and film 3-minute videos, let alone 30-minute videos. Well, so that's something that I'm working on as well and figuring that out. Like, one of my goals last year was to travel to be on a podcast. And I traveled to New Jersey and I did the Fireside America podcast in New Jersey with Ryan Robbins. It was a great experience. It was a whirlwind. I flew out on Thursday. I did the podcast I flew out Wednesday, 12 hours to get there, did the podcast Thursday night, flew home Friday morning.
Well, that's awesome.
And that was I think one of the biggest podcasts that I've been on, and it was one of the only ones I've ever traveled to the East Coast to be a guest. So it was a great experience. Shout out to Ryan. I was excited. He actually didn't know that we had the Range Minded podcast, and I kind of dropped it on when we were out getting coffee, and he was like, 200 episodes? Are you kidding?
Oh man, I forgot to say this is officially 200 episodes. We've released a few things, but officially this is the 200th episode.
So we should have 252 episodes by this time next year.
Yes, and maybe a couple little half episodes.
Awesome. All right, so we've gone over the goals for the podcast. We've kind of gone over some of your health issues. So do you have any what's your personal, I'm going to say it, New Year's resolution?
So I've noticed that your mind is just like a muscle, right? And if you don't work it out, it fails. So I'm going to start treating my body a little bit better. But I need to be working on my mind. And the live I did before we came on, while you were doing your thing before, I talked about books. Like what's if you could recommend one book, what would it be? And Roy Paquette said, I forgot what it was. I have to look it back up. The Big Leap or something like that is when he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to ask you the same question. If you could recommend one book, what would it be?
Okay, so every time I get asked this, I have one book that I recommend. In fact, when I went to New Jersey and met Ryan, I actually gave him a book, and I gave the same book to all of my kids for Christmas. That book is The Four Agreements. If you haven't read The Four Agreements, it is a great book to start with. That's always the first book that I recommend people read when they're going to start reading. That really sets you off for success in the things that you are planning on doing down the road. Outside of that, a book that I actually have in my backpack right now that I was reading today was Never Split the Difference. That's a great book in negotiation and deal making.
That's good. I need to write these down. Actually, I don't have a place to write anything down. So
I can send you a list, Steve. I can send you my entire reading list if you want.
Because I've noticed, like, I can do a lot of things, right? I like, for example, the last couple of weeks I've been working on a piece of heavy equipment because I know how to do that, as well as, building a house and, and running a gun. Like I have a lot of abilities, but that's just the physical side. I need to really be working on the philosophical and intellectual side of my body. And
so think about this, and I've talked about this on the show before. We've talked about like mindset and mentality, right? And I've talked on here and on many other podcasts. I've talked about like the questions I ask myself every day to know if I'm in the right position to carry a firearm. Well, those same things apply to the rest of your life, right? And you're using your mind. We use the word mindset a lot. Like, what is your mindset? Where is your mindset? That has to do with carrying a gun. It has to do with all kinds of things in your life, including business, relationships, being a father. Like, all of those things all start in your mindset. And we spend more time in our own mind than anything else throughout the day. So if that place is a bad place to be, everything else that you do in the day is off to a bad start. So one thing I like to do, I like to read, but I do a lot more with audiobooks. But I've gotten really good about buying the physical book and listening to the audiobook the last year. For those of you guys that saw, like when I was coming back from New Jersey, I bought 3 books in the airport. One was Never Split the Difference, which I'm reading right now physically. Mm-hmm. I'd already listened to the audiobook. And then I bought Exit Rich, which talks about building your business to sell, and Blue Ocean, which talks about selling your products in a blue ocean in a non-saturated market.
Yeah.
And those are things like I haven't read all of them, but I've read 5 pages here, 10 pages here. I never read anything like cover to cover all the way through.
Yeah. You want to hear a funny story? So about maybe 15 years ago, I bought this book. It's called How to Get Things Done. And I never read it. That's pretty pathetic. You buy a book about completing something, and I never even started it.
That might be a good place to start.
I'm pretty sure I can find it. You can't see me, but behind my flags and my sticker frames I've got 3 bookcases full of books.
That is one of my goals for the show, is to get Steve a legit good backdrop.
What's wrong with my backdrop?
It's too busy, dude. We got to get you something that is like professional.
All right.
I'm going to come out there. You're a carpenter, and we're going to build something.
I gotta find another gun room, because really the podcast room is my man cave at the same time. So it's just so full of.
Perfect. So we just need to cut out a corner and build you a cool backdrop. I'm actually building a studio in the shop this year.
And I'm gonna build you a podcasting desk or whatever you want in there, because I have a vision of something I wanted to build for that room forever. But
yeah, I'm taking the room at the end of the showroom and I'm turning it into a full-on recording studio.
nice.
So I already bought all the acoustic foam. I got the microphones. We got the new lights. All we have to do now is move the bandsaw, the router, the drill press, and all of that shit out of there.
Maybe it's time to build a new building.
Well, I mean, maybe in 18 months.
Yeah, dude, you're gonna get so big you're not gonna know what to do.
So my goal is to actually move all the production out of this shop and turn this shop into a studio where we record all the educational content. And once I get the business going enough to where I can step out and not be in all of the manufacturing day to day, I want to actually create content to help other people start making holsters.
Nice.
So that's a long-term goal. I don't think it's going to happen this year, but yeah, I want to turn the current shop into pretty much a YouTube studio.
I believe it will happen.
So we already got the whiteboard.
That's all you need.
So 100 subscribers.
Yep.
We're going to drop a shirt. Go to iTunes, subscribe to the podcast. If you've been listening, I mean, we've been doing this, for 4 years. Leave a review on iTunes. Let's see if we can up the numbers. And we're going to get this year kicked off right. Steve's going to start reading books. And I'm going to start selling holsters.
And we're all going to grow together.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to be back on the show. I thought that I was fired for a while
Heavens no.
Until last week when you said on the podcast that I wasn't fired. I was a little worried. I got a lot of messages asking if I was okay.
You're doing just fine. We could never get rid of you. We would never get rid of you anyways. No way, Jose.
All right. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about? Otherwise, I'm going to go home and have dinner.
I don't think so. If you guys, make sure like, subscribe. We need to get to that first 100 so we can get some shirts dropped, and we'll have a cool design. We'll figure out something cool to make that shirt completely unique. And then, yeah, it's going to be an awesome year.
Here's what I'm going to commit to for this month. So I told you guys I'm going to SHOT Show. I'm still hoping that Steve is going to pull something off and be able to show up at least for the last part. Like I said, I got a condo, dude. You're welcome to it. So I will try and film some content while I'm at SHOT Show for you guys to put on the Instagram and YouTube channel, as well as I will carve out an evening and I'll make sure to bring my microphone and we will do a recap of what I saw and experienced while I was at the show.
So really what needs to happen, what would be ideal, is both of us there walking through SHOT Show and having an experience.
Yeah, well, that'd be ideal. If you could show up on Thursday, that'd be awesome.
See what I can do. My wife's I built this cool new door for my man cave / studio. And my wife's looking at me through the window, shaking her head. She can hear every word I'm saying. Hello, dear.
Essentially, if you can get a plane ticket to Vegas, you have a place to stay.
Okay. We'll see what we can do. Anyway, we appreciate you coming on, Nick.
I'm glad to be here. I'm glad that I'm not fired.
You're definitely not fired. You've been dedicated to growing a brand. That's what you've been doing.
We talked about this before. I want to get Mark on the show.
I just saw that he got a new job. I was going to actually message him today. I had the feeling I should send him a message. So I'll do that after we get off the show. Like, I'm going to send him a message.
I can't even tell you how excited the listeners would be if we got the trio back on the show, at least for an episode.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to send him a message. I don't have his phone number anymore, I don't think. He's probably got a different one anyway since he left. But
look at that. Steve got so mad that Mark left the show, he deleted his phone number out of his phone.
It was a breakup, all right.
That's why Steve hasn't been sleeping well. He's still broken, emotionally distraught that Mark left the show.
That could be. Anyways, I'm going to let you go eat dinner. It's going to take me forever to get this edited and put up. Actually, it won't be that bad. But thanks again for being a part of this, Nick, and for helping us get to our next chapter of the podcast, because it's going to be a good year for the show. It's going to be awesome.
Well, I'm going to hold you to those goals. I wrote all of this down. So, guys, make sure that you're subscribing to the show, share it with one friend, and I'm going to say it because Steve always gets to say it and he kicked me off the show. That's what we're going with. Go out, take someone shooting, and be a good steward of the Second Amendment.
Yep, you heard it from the man himself. All right.
All right, buddy. I'm out of here.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, man. See ya.
Do you edit the end of this out?
Yeah, I'll cut this off later.
Okay. So this is going to be on the show, so I have to say something really inappropriate because you're going to forget to edit this part out.
That's why I clap my hand, because then it shows up on the.
Well, that one was that was less than an hour.
Yeah. I think we got everything we needed to.
Yeah, I think that we were good. Dude, seriously though, if you can make it out there, I mean, Wednesday, Thursday, I think the show's early on Friday. That'd be a great day to do the podcast.
Yeah. I actually like Friday SHOT Show because that's when you get all the free stuff.
So I think that if you guys can make it out there, you could stay the weekend and I'll go home on Friday.
We'll figure it out. I'll see.
I have a condo at the Tahiti Village. So look it up. It's freaking awesome. It's got a kitchen.
I think I have actually seen when I was looking at places to stay this for SHOT. Yeah. I think I actually pulled that up.
Yeah, it's freaking cool. It's too bad that the weather is going to be cold as shit. I can't sit by the pool.
Warmer than here.
Yeah. So if you guys want to come out, I'll fly home Friday and you guys can have that for the whole weekend and make a trip out of it. Or if you just want to come out for a couple days, like get out there, you have a place to stay. I'll be going to the show anyways every day. I'm trying not to spend a bunch of money when I'm there either. So that's why, like, I have a kitchen. I'm going to eat dinner, whatever. I'm trying not to spend a bunch of money while I'm there either.
Yeah, that's last year when I took my son, we just bought snacks and just snacked at the show. And
yeah, I have no intention of spending freaking $1,000 to be there. Like, I'm going to be going home early. Like, I didn't even want to go. So I really don't want to spend a bunch of money.
Right.
So, all right, man, I'm going to jump off here. I got the angry phone call when I said I wasn't going to be home till 7. So if I can get home by 6:30, I shouldn't be in trouble.
I'll let you go, buddy.
Anyways, I want to come out there. We need to do, even if you just did like a black backdrop, something that's not so busy and darkens it up with some light, dude, I think that would be great for video.
Yeah, I do. There were some other things I wanted to try. I thought it would be cool, but it might be a little busy. I can just maybe move something to a different wall and film that way.
So I think that because if we can get at least your side of the podcast on video, then you can upload that to YouTube and you can put it on Spotify as video and it'll come up even more. So the more video and the more clips that we can pull out to put on the Range Minded page, the better. Yeah. And also, dude, change your Instagram to your name and start using your personal Instagram more and just posting show stuff on the show.
Yeah, I need to. And I've known that for a long time. I just get lazy.
Well, go on there tonight and change it from Impractical Tactical to your name.
Okay.
Because I promise you it will work to your benefit in the end.
Okay. I'll do it.
Especially when you're in people's lives, and then they'll know who you are.
Yeah, not just some random skull or a Spartan helmet thing. Or I think I already changed my picture, but just not my name.
Yeah, so do that for me, and then we'll get together. Even if you can't make it out to SHOT Show, we'll do a podcast while I'm out there.
Yeah, it'll be cool.
So, all right, man.
Okay, dude.
Talk to you later.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
Bye.
We know your time is precious, and we are so grateful that you hung out with us on this episode. If you liked what you heard, make sure you give us a big thumbs up and share us with your friends. If you want to get in contact with us, you can email me at rangeminded@gmail.com or find me on the socials, whether it be rangeminded on both Facebook and Instagram, or you can even find me on my personal page on Instagram in Practical Tactical. Guys, I love you, appreciate you, and dang it, take somebody shooting.